Hey guys, today I'm going to be taking a look at a Debian-based Linux distribution called SparkyLinux from their website at SparkyLinux.org. SparkyLinux is a GNU/Linux distribution created on the testing branch of Debian. It features customized lightweight desktops like E19, LXQt, and OpenBox, multimedia plugins, selected sets of apps, and own custom tools to ease different tasks. A little bit of a blurb from their homepage here. When I go and click on the download link here, in the download page we have options of stable, rolling, or development versions. Stable, as you might have guessed, is based on Debian stable. Then their rolling version is based on Debian's testing branch. And I believe this is the version of SparkyLinux, kind of their flagship version. This is the one they kind of push, is the rolling release version that's based on Debian testing. So I'm going to pull down one of these ISOs. They also offer a development ISO for those that want to beta test SparkyLinux. Under the rolling release versions of Sparky, okay, looks like we have LXQt is the first option, but they also offer additions in Mate, XFCE. They offer a minimal GUI, no codecs. They offer no codecs, no X server, so no graphical programs of any kind. And then they also offer special editions such as their Game Over version, multimedia version, and rescue version. I'm going to choose the first option in the list. I'm assuming this is what their flagship product is the LXQt version. This is SparkyLinux 5.2 LXQt based on Debian testing. Okay, I'm going to be installing SparkyLinux 5.2 inside a virtual machine. Alright, so I've downloaded the ISO, and we have our boot menu here. In the boot menu we have options for SparkyLinux, SparkyLinux failsafe, SparkyLinux 2RAM, SparkyLinux text mode, run memtest, and boot the first hard disk. I am going to go ahead and choose the first option in the menu, SparkyLinux. And this should boot us directly into a live environment. Alright, and the live environment has booted up. Of course, this is the LXQt desktop environment. I'm not going to play around in the live environment. I'm going to go ahead and install SparkyLinux. Interesting, they have two installers on the desktop here. We have the Sparky Installer, and then we have the Sparky Advanced Installer. Now, the Sparky Installer, I'm assuming, is your standard graphical installer, probably one of the easy graphical installers such as Calamares or something similar to that. The Advanced Installer, I'm not sure what that is. Maybe some kind of more text-based installer. Certainly a lot more options probably to choose from. This is based on Debian, after all. Debian has a couple of different installers to choose from. They have the standard Debian install that's pretty straightforward, very easy, very fast. But they do have more advanced installers with a lot more options you can choose. Of course, you got to set up all your partitions manually and such. So for purposes of this video, I'm going to run through the standard Sparky installer. Assume that that's what 98% of you are probably wanting to do anyway, just run through the standard install. Okay. And by default, English has been chosen as our language. I'm going to click Next. It has correctly chosen the Central Time Zone in the US for me, so I'm going to click Next. English US has been correctly chosen for my keyboard layout. I can do a quick test here. Yep, the keyboard is working as expected. Alright, partition. We have the option of erasing disk, giving SparkyLinux the entire 15 gig hard drive of this virtual machine. Or I can choose manual partitioning and set up the partitions myself. I'm going to choose erase disk and let SparkyLinux have the whole 15 gig hard drive of this machine. I'm going to click Next. Alright, now it asks for our name. I'm going to choose Sparky as my name. For a password, I need to type a simple password. I need to type it twice to confirm it. Alright, by default, it is ticked on here, log in automatically without a password. I'm going to tick that off. I want to be asked for a password when I log in. Also ticked on by default is use the same password for the administrator account. So do you want to use the same password for your home user as your root user? I don't mind leaving that ticked on. It saves me from having to remember two different passwords. So, alright, then we have our summary here. Location is correct. Keyboard is correct. The partition scheme, yeah, all this is good. I'm just going to click next here. Alright, and the installer starts. It basically it's formatting the drive, writing to the disk. This may take a few minutes. Actually, on the screen here it says the installation takes 15 to 30 minutes. That is that's probably just to cover themselves, give them a little extra time. Most Linux distro installs these days rarely take more than 10 minutes once you get past this stage here. So I'm going to pause the video, and I expect this installer to run 5 to 10 minutes. And as I expected, that install didn't take 15 to 30 minutes as the little slideshow warned me. It took right at 6 minutes from start to finish. So, alright, and this installer, of course, is the Calamares installer. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. In the Calamares installer, you have to go down here to the bottom left and click Restart Now, and then click Done, and this will automatically reboot your machine. You always have to reboot your machine to complete a Linux install, so let me restart. I'll be right back. Alright, and we have rebooted our freshly installed Sparky Linux 5.2, the LXQt edition. Let's see how long boot up time takes. Alright, we got to our login manager very fast. 10, maybe 15 seconds. Pretty fast boot up time. Let me enter my name and password and log in here. Alright, and the LXQt desktop environment has loaded. Let me take a second and see if I can get the Virtualbox guest editions working here. But before I do that, Sparky Linux immediately has a window popping up saying we need to do a full upgrade of the system. Being a rolling release version of Sparky Linux, being based on Debian testing, there are going to be some outdated packages. I do need to actually do a system upgrade before I do this review, to give the review a fair chance here. So I'm going to go ahead and update the system. So this first run postscript here is asking for my root password, so it needs root permission to run this update. And all this is your standard apt-get update, apt-get upgrade command. It's just instead of having you manually enter it into a terminal, somebody has written this nifty little script where you just hit OK and that runs for you. Alright, and we can read through any kind of upgrades. We can read through our change log here. I'm just going to click OK and let it pull down all the updates. Looks like 449 packages are needing to be updated, so this may take a minute. I'm going to pause the video again. Alright, and I finished running that little post installation script, which basically all that was just an apt-get update, apt-get upgrade. There was also an option to install some extra language packs if needed. I didn't need to do that. Then I rebooted the machine, and the Virtualbox guest editions are working now, so I really didn't have to struggle getting these to work. Just updating the system took care of that. So Sparky Linux 5.2, the LXQt edition, I will say really classy look and feel to it, just out of the box. I love the wallpaper, plain wallpaper, but stylish. The LXQt panel at the bottom, this light theme is an attractive theme too. Let me go through the LXQt menu and see what programs are installed by default here in Sparky Linux LXQt. Under the accessories category, we have Calculator for our calculator. We have LeafPad, which is the standard text editor in the LXDE desktop environment. There's a GTK-based app, so not a Qt app. You would think, being LXQt, they would have included a Qt text editor by default rather than a GTK one, but LeafPad is a fine text editor. I actually like LeafPad. Also under accessories, we have PCMan FM as our file manager. PCMan FM is my favorite minimal, lightweight file manager. And this is the Qt version of PCMan FM, PCMan FM-Qt. This is version 0.12. Also under accessories, we have Clipper for our clipboard. We have Xarchiver, which is the archive utility in the XFCE desktop environment, another GTK app. XFburn, which is the disk burning utility in the XFCE desktop environment, another GTK app. So they're not afraid to mix and match GTK apps and Qt apps here in SparkyLinux LXQt. Under education, we have LibreOffice Math. Under graphics, we have Camerama webcam viewer. I've never seen that program before. That might be one I need to check out at a later date. We have Image Magic, LibreOffice Draw, LX Image, our screenshot utility, and Sybil Scan, all of those listed under the graphics category. Alright, under internet we have Firefox ESR. Let's see, Firefox, I'm going to take a couple of seconds to launch here. Alright, Firefox ESR, this is 52.5.0. Let's close that out. Alright, also under internet we have HexChat for our IRC client. HexChat is a nice little GUI IRC chat client. Then we have Pigeon Instant Messenger for those of you that still use instant messaging programs. We have QBitTorrent for our BitTorrent client. We have Thunderbird for our email client. We have UGit for let's see, download multiple URLs and apply it to one of setting and queue. Let's see. UGit. I've actually never used this program before, but it's a pretty popular program. I've seen it around. Alright, also under internet we have a program called Web Browser Installer. Now let's check this out. Of course, it asks for our root password. Anytime you install software, you have to give Linux your root password. Oh, okay, this is a neat little app. I wonder if this is something that SparkyLinux developed on its own, or if this is a standalone app that somebody else developed, but it lists pretty much every web browser known to man, practically. And I guess we just click on one of these icons and it would install a web browser of our choice. We have options for Brave, Chromium, Conqueror, Cyberfox, Dillo, Double, Epiphany, Firefox ESR, Standard Firefox, Google Chrome, IceCat, Iron, Conqueror with a K instead of a C, Midori, NetSurf, Opera, Otter, Pale Moon, Cupzilla, Sea Monkey, Slimjet, Tor Browser, Vivaldi, and WaterFox. I really like that. I dig that a lot. Alright, under Office we have the entire LibreOffice suite. And then we also have QPDF View, which is our PDF viewer. Under Programming we have our icon browser. Sound and Video, we have Clementine for our audio player. Clementine is possibly my favorite music player in Linux. If I want a full-featured music player, you know, sometimes I go, you know, minimal music players, but if you want a fully functional, fully featured audio player in Linux, Clementine is about as good as it gets. If you're wanting a Qt application especially, Clementine is where you want to go. If you want a full-featured GTK audio player, Rhythmbox is probably where I would go in that case. Alright, also under Sound and Video we have Install Multimedia Codecs. So I'm assuming this is going to be very similar to our Install Web Browser program. Yeah, this basically lists multimedia codecs and plugins. It's going to install our browser plugins for the Vlc video player. It's going to install FFmpeg, Flash, Ice-T, GStreamer, LibDVD, yada yada yada. I'm going to exit out of that. I'm not going to bother installing those on camera, but if you were actually installing this on a physical machine to actually live in, you need to install all those programs. You need the multimedia codecs to have a proper desktop experience. Alright, also under Sound and Video we have our Pulse Audio Volume Control. We have Radio Tray. Radio Tray is an interesting little program. You don't see it installed by default on too many Linux distros, but basically it sits in your system tray here. Let's see, where did it place itself. That's the volume controller. Here, no, that's the volume. I know I launched Radio Tray. Where did it go? Okay, this is it right here. That says volume. This, I thought it was the volume controller, but this is actually Radio Tray. Let me move my head out of the way here so you can see what's going on with Radio Tray. Radio Tray, you just click on it, and then you have all these categories in this menu of music genres. You pick one, say jazz, and then you have radio stations listed under jazz. I click on this, the station starts playing. I'm not going to demonstrate it playing on this video because I don't want this video to be taken down. But Radio Tray, for those of you that want to listen to live radio on your Linux desktop, Radio Tray is a nifty little app. Alright, also under sound and video we have our Vlc Media Player. Vlc is a fantastic multimedia player, usually used to play video. Can be used to play audio too. Alright, also under sound and video we have XFburn again, our disk burning utility. Under system tools we have About Sparky Linux. Let's see, does this launch anything? Just this little page. Gives us system information. It also gives us these little links to, I guess, web pages, to the Sparky Linux website, to their community. I'm assuming that's their forum, their wiki page, bug reporting, sponsoring, and donations. So a little bit of information about Sparky Linux for those that want to read it. Alright, system tools. We also have AptUs, AptUs Extra. Now what is AptUs? Let me type in my root password. As you may have guessed, it has to do with your apt package manager, the standard package manager in Debian and Debian-based distros. This is basically a GUI front end to the apt package manager and to DPKG. So here we can run an update, we can install software, we can remove software, fix broken packages, we can also do some cleaning, removing unnecessary packages, and we can also edit our repos, add and remove repositories. Alright, also under System Tools, we have our Disk Usage utility. We have the GDebi package installer. GDebi is a standard program on Debian and Debian-based distros. This helps you install .deb packages, .debian packages. Really nifty little tool. We have gexec. Also under System Tools, we have Live USB Creator. That is for making, bootable USB sticks. We have our terminal program, which is the Qt terminal. So, pretty nifty little terminal here. Of course, it's a Qt application. Alright, system tools. We also have our bug reporting utility. We have our root terminal. This just opens our terminal up as root user. We have system upgrade. We have our task manager. Let's check out the task manager. Now, I have a few things running. I opened Clementine earlier. That actually put it in the system tray, even though I'm not really running it. It's running in the background. Also Radio Tray, I opened that up. Also had some other icons, some networking stuff, sound stuff, also running in the sys tray down here that opens by default. So there's a little bit of stuff running here. But still, CPU usage is at 1%. Very low CPU usage. Memory usage is only at 385 megs. And like I said, I've opened a few programs here. Still 385 megs of 6 gigs of memory that I gave this virtual machine. That's a really low memory footprint. Good stuff. Alright, also under System Tools we have our USB disk formatter. This of course is to format a USB drive. Then we have our X terminal. We have our Florence virtual keyboard under Universal Access. Then preferences, we have our LXQt settings, our LXQt configuration center. So this is basically your settings manager here. And it has your usual suspects: appearance, brightness, desktop, notifications, keyboard and mouse, monitor, power. The standard stuff you'd expect to see. We also have the Synaptic package manager here under system settings. So another GUI front end basically to apt. The Synaptic package manager is a fantastic GUI package manager. You guys have seen the Synaptic package manager a million times on all the Debian and Debian-based distros I review. You guys know I love Synaptic. And finishing out the menu here under Preferences, mostly stuff we've already seen. Firewall config, LightDM greeter settings. LightDM is our login manager where you type in your username and password to log in to the LXQt desktop environment. And that is it. Then we have our session stuff, log out, reboot, suspend. Okay, let me check out what kind of wallpapers are available on Sparky Linux. I really love this dark blue default wallpaper with the Sparky Linux logo. But let's see what else we have. So I right click on the desktop and I go to Desktop Preferences. And here under Background we have the location of the wallpaper that's currently set. We can choose Browse here and go somewhere and look at other wallpapers. It looks like by default they're storing these wallpapers under /opt/artwork, and it's hard to tell what the wallpapers are with these small icons. I'm not sure if I can make those bigger. Yeah, I can. That's cool. So I can at least get a better idea of what I'm looking at here. Let's see if I hit apply. Yeah, that's a pretty cool wallpaper. Let me run through some of the others. Just going to pick a few and give you guys an idea of what kind of wallpaper package they're using here. They look pretty original, these wallpapers too. I don't recognize any of these pictures. Installing so many Linux distros, a lot of the wallpapers that come up in these distros, I see a lot of the same ones over and over again, but these I haven't seen before. And there's a nice one, wintry theme, appropriate for this time of year, but you know what? I think I'm just going to go back to the default one if I can find it. Yeah, I'll just go back to that dark blue background, because honestly, with the LXQt theme that they're using, this light silvery bar at the bottom, you really want a dark background. Using a light wallpaper doesn't make much sense against a light theme. You want a dark background, light theme, or you want a light background, dark theme. Speaking of theme, let's see if we can see if there's any other themes and maybe icon sets installed by default. I'm going to go back to LXQt settings, and we had appearance. Located under that, under appearance, we have widget style. We have our icon themes. Looks like by default they're using an icon set called Ultra Flat Icons. The only other icon sets are the Adwaita icon set, the default GNOME icon set, which is not a very good looking icon set, and the Oxygen icon set, which for many years was your standard default icon set in KDE. So no real extra icon sets installed by default other than this Ultra Flat icon set that they're using. I'm going to open up PC Man FM here to show you some of these ultra flat icons. It's actually not a bad looking icon set. LXQt theme, this is our panel here at the bottom. By default is set to Sparky 5, which is a pretty nice looking theme. Let me go to just the regular Sparky, not Sparky 5. Now it changes to some blue highlighting, changes a little bit. And then we also have options for the Ambience LXQt theme. We have the dark theme here. We have the frost theme. KDE Plasma theme, which for a light theme, I really like the KDE Plasma LXQt theme. But really the best one out of this bunch is definitely the default, the Sparky 5 theme. I'm going to go back to it. Under fonts, I'm not going to mess around with the fonts. And then we have options for cursors, but really the only cursor is the Adwaita. So let me pull up a terminal again. I'm going to go to System Tools. I'm going to open our Qt terminal. And let's see what kernel we're running. Uname space -R 4.14.0-2. So 4.14 is the kernel. That's a recent kernel. Again, this is based on Debian testing. Again, Sparky Linux is meant to be a rolling release. Again, they do offer a stable version that is based on Debian stable, but when I look at like release notes for Sparky Linux and you look at the distro watch page for Sparky Linux, Mostly what they talk about is Sparky Linux based on Debian testing, so I'm assuming this is really their flagship product, is Sparky based on testing, which is why I went with this today. And I went with the LXQt version because, one, it's the first thing they listed on their downloads page, so I'm assuming this is their main product. And two, because I actually had one of our viewers recommend Sparky Linux LXQt for me to review, so I wanted to, give a shout out to that user for recommending Sparky Linux to me. So, what do I think about Sparky Linux 5.2 LXQt? Fantastic, fantastic. I love Debian. Debian testing, not usually what I go with. I'm more of a Debian stable kind of guy. But for those of you that don't mind, living a little bit more on the bleeding edge, Debian testing is not too bad. I mean, it's not like living in Debian unstable, which really you can see a lot of breakages in unstable. Debian testing, you may see some minor breakages, you may not. Your mileage may vary on that, but I love Debian as a base. LXQt is probably my favorite full-featured Linux desktop environment. Uses the OpenBox window manager, at least it does here in Sparky Linux. I love OpenBox. So the installer gets an A. Sparky Linux, their LXQt desktop here, gets an A. Check it out, guys. Peace.